Born in Ukraine in 2008, Karolina Protsenko became a global violin sensation before turning 15, performing on busy streets in California and gaining millions of fans online. Behind the viral videos, long hours, pressure, and constant public attention shaped her journey in ways few people see. Her rise looked effortless, but the reality tells a deeper story of sacrifice, family decisions, and growing up in the spotlight. What really happened behind the music, and is her dream as perfect as it seems? Karolina Protsenko was born in 2008 in Ukraine, into a family where music was already a part of everyday life. Her parents were not strangers to performance. Her mother played piano, and her father had a strong connection to music as well. This environment shaped her early years in quiet but powerful ways. Music was not forced on her. It was simply there, always present. At a very young age, Karolina showed interest in the violin. She began learning with focus and patience. While most children were still exploring simple hobbies, she was already practicing with discipline. Her small hands held the instrument carefully. Each note was a step forward. But life in Ukraine was stable and familiar. Friends, language, and culture surrounded her. Everything felt known. Everything felt safe. Then came a decision that would change everything. Around 2015, her family chose to leave Ukraine and move to the United States. This was not an easy choice. It meant leaving behind comfort and stepping into uncertainty. The reasons were complex. Opportunity played a role. So did the dream of a better future. But behind that dream was risk. Moving to a new country meant starting from zero. New language, new system, new life. For a young child, this kind of change can be confusing. Familiar streets were replaced by unfamiliar ones. Familiar sounds were replaced by a different language. The family settled in California. It was a place full of energy and possibility. But it was also expensive and competitive. According to many reports, immigrant families often faced financial pressure during their early years in the United States. Karolina's family was no different. They had to adjust quickly. Daily life required effort. Work, housing, and stability became priorities. But even during this transition, one thing did not stop. Music continued. Karolina kept practicing. Her violin became more than just an instrument. It became a constant in a changing world. In quiet moments, it gave her comfort. Her parents supported her deeply. They saw her talent growing, even during uncertain times. They encouraged her to continue, even when life was difficult. This support became a key part of her journey. At home, practice sessions became routine. Hours were spent improving technique, learning songs, repeating mistakes. It was not always easy. Learning an instrument at a young age requires patience. It requires discipline that most children do not yet understand. But Karolina stayed focused. Slowly, her skill improved. Her confidence grew. Outside the home, however, life was still changing. Adjusting to a new culture takes time. Schools are different. Social life is different. Even simple daily interactions can feel unfamiliar. For a young immigrant child, these changes can feel overwhelming. But Karolina continued moving forward. Observers often note that early success is rarely sudden. It is built on years of quiet effort. In her case, those years were already taking shape. Her talent, her family support, and the new environment in California were beginning to align. Something was building. But at this stage, nothing was guaranteed. There was no fame, no audience, no viral videos, only practice, only hope, and a young girl holding a violin, preparing for something she could not yet see. Her story was still in its early chapters. Yet beneath the surface, challenges were already forming. Pressure, expectations, and uncertainty were slowly becoming part of her path. Few people could see it at the time, but it was there, waiting. And then, everything changed in a way no one expected. But the real turning point came not in a concert hall, but on the streets, where everything would suddenly change. The turning point did not happen on a stage. It happened on a sidewalk. Around 2017, in Santa Monica, California, Karolina Protsenko stepped into a very different kind of performance space. The 3rd Street Promenade was busy, loud, and unpredictable. Street performers, tourists, and locals moved through the area every day. It was not a controlled environment. There were no tickets, no formal audience, no guarantees. But that is where everything began to change. Karolina started performing her violin in public spaces, often accompanied by backing tracks and simple equipment. Her parents were there helping manage the setup and recording the moments. At first, the crowd was small. A few people would stop. Some would watch. Others would walk past without noticing. But slowly, something started to happen. Her performances were different. She played popular songs that people already knew. This helped create an instant connection. Passers-by could recognize the music within seconds. Then came her energy. She did not just stand still and play. She moved. She smiled. She connected with the crowd in a natural way. It felt alive. People began to stop for longer. Phones came out. Videos were recorded. Then those videos were uploaded online. Platforms like YouTube became the next stage. According to many industry observers, viral content often depends on emotion and timing. Karolina's performances had both. Her videos started gaining views, then thousands, then millions. The growth was fast. One video would lead to another. The algorithm pushed her content further. New audiences discovered her almost every day. Her channel grew rapidly. Millions of subscribers followed. Her name began appearing across social media platforms. For many viewers, her story felt inspiring. A young girl playing violin on the street, bringing joy to strangers. But behind this image, reality was more complex. Street performing is not easy. It requires long hours, standing for extended periods, repeating performances again and again. Weather conditions can change everything. Heat, cold, wind, and noise all affect the experience. There is also unpredictability. Some days bring large crowds. Other days are quiet. There are also public reactions. Not everyone stops. Not everyone supports. This environment can be challenging, especially for a young performer. But Karolina continued. Day after day, she returned to the same streets, playing, improving, building her presence. Her parents played a key role during this time. They handled recording, uploading, and managing the content. This was not accidental growth. It required consistency. It required planning. Each performance became part of a larger system. Filming angles, sound quality, song choices. All of these factors were carefully considered. Over time, her street performances became more polished. The crowd reactions grew stronger. Applause became louder. Money from tips and online monetization began to support the family. This was no longer just a hobby. It was becoming a career. But with growth came new pressure. Maintaining success online is not simple. Audiences expect regular content. They expect improvement. They expect consistency. For a young teenager, this creates a new kind of responsibility. There is no pause button on the internet. Each video must perform. Each moment is recorded. And slowly, the line between performance and everyday life begins to blur. What started as music on the street was turning into something much bigger. Something that would shape her future in ways she could not fully control. As her fame spread across the world, the attention grew stronger. But attention comes with expectations. And expectations can become pressure. As her fame grew across the internet, a new challenge began to take shape, one that would test her life beyond the music. By the time Karolina Protsenko entered her early teenage years, her life had already changed in ways most children never experience. Millions of people knew her name. Her videos had reached audiences across the world. Views continued to rise. Comments filled every upload. Support came from different countries, languages, and cultures. From the outside, it looked like a dream. But behind that success, a different reality was forming. Fame at a young age brings attention, but it also brings pressure. Every performance was now expected to be perfect. Each time she stepped onto the street, cameras were ready. Her audience was no longer just the people standing nearby. It was a global audience watching from screens. Mistakes were no longer private. They could be seen, shared, and judged. This created a constant sense of responsibility. Her daily routine began to revolve around performance and content creation. Practice sessions were no longer just for improvement. They were preparation for public viewing. Recording became part of everyday life. Moments that might have been personal for other children were often captured on camera. According to many experts, young performers in the digital age face unique challenges. The line between childhood and career becomes unclear. In Karolina's case, that line was almost invisible. School, free time, and friendships had to adjust around her growing career. While other children spent time in typical activities, her schedule often included filming, performing, and engaging with her audience. This did not mean her life lacked joy. She still smiled during performances. She still connected with people through music. But the structure of her life was different. There was also the emotional weight of expectations. Fans wanted more videos, more songs, more moments. The internet moves quickly. Attention can fade just as fast as it rises. Maintaining relevance requires constant effort. For a young person, this can create pressure that is difficult to fully understand. There is also the impact of public opinion. Online comments can be supportive, but they can also be critical. Even small remarks can affect confidence over time. Each reaction becomes part of the experience. Yet, despite all of this, Karolina continued to perform. She showed consistency, discipline, focus. Her ability to keep going became one of her strongest traits. But behind the camera, decisions were being made. Her career was growing. Opportunities were expanding. With that growth came questions about direction. What path should she follow? How should her image be managed? What balance should exist between her personal life and her public presence? These were not simple questions. And for someone so young, the answers often depended on others. Her family remained closely involved. They guided her choices, managed her schedule, supported her progress. But even strong support comes with responsibility. As her career continued to expand, the weight of those decisions became more important than ever. Because what happened next would not just shape her present, it would define her future. But behind the scenes, decisions were being made that would shape her future in ways few people understood. Behind every public performance, there was a system working quietly in the background. At the center of that system was Karolina Protsenko's family. Her parents were not just supporters. They were deeply involved in every part of her journey. From organizing performances to filming videos, their role shaped how her career developed. This level of involvement is common among young performers, especially in the digital age, where content creation requires planning, consistency, and technical effort. In Karolina's case, her parents handled many responsibilities. They selected locations, managed recording equipment, edited videos, uploaded content. Each video that appeared online was not just a moment. It was the result of a process. Filming in public spaces required coordination. Timing had to be right. Sound quality needed to be clear. Camera angles had to capture both performance and emotion. All of this happened while managing a young performer in a busy environment. It was not simple. There were also decisions about song selection. Popular songs helped attract attention. Familiar melodies made it easier for audiences to connect. This strategy played a role in her growth. But it also meant constant planning. Consistency became essential. Regular uploads helped maintain visibility. According to many industry observers, content creators must stay active to remain relevant. This creates pressure not only on the performer, but also on the team behind them. For Karolina, that team was her family. Their support allowed her to grow quickly. They created a safe environment where she could perform and improve. At the same time, this dynamic raises important questions. When family and career are closely connected, boundaries can become unclear. Where does guidance end and control begin? Where does childhood end and responsibility begin? These are questions often discussed in cases of young public figures. There is no simple answer. In many ways, Karolina's family provided stability. They stayed together through every stage of her journey. They shared both the challenges and the success. This bond became one of the strongest parts of her story. But it also carried weight. Shared expectations can create silent pressure. Everyone is working toward the same goal. Everyone depends on the outcome. This can make decisions more complex. Financial aspects also play a role. Online platforms like YouTube provide income through views, ads, and audience support. For many families, this becomes a source of stability. In Karolina's case, her success likely contributed to the family's overall situation. This adds another layer of responsibility. Each performance is no longer just about art. It is also connected to livelihood. And that changes the meaning of every moment on camera. Despite these pressures, her family continued to stand by her side. They traveled together, filmed together, built something together. To the outside world, it looked like a perfect partnership. But like any complex system, there were layers beneath the surface. Decisions, expectations, and long-term planning continued to shape her path. As she grew older, those decisions would become even more important, because childhood does not last forever. And sooner or later, every young performer faces the same question: what happens next? As her career continued to grow, the question became impossible to ignore. What does the future really hold for her? As the years moved forward, Karolina Protsenko was no longer just a young child with a violin. She was growing up. Her audience was growing with her. This stage of her life brought a new kind of challenge. It was no longer only about learning music or gaining attention. It was about transition. Moving from childhood into teenage years is already complex, but doing it in front of millions of people adds another layer of pressure. Every change becomes visible. Her style began to evolve. Her performances became more refined. Her presence more confident. But with growth comes expectation. Audiences who once admired her as a child now expected something more. Improvement, maturity, new ideas. Staying relevant in the digital world is not easy. According to industry patterns, many young internet stars face a critical turning point during their teenage years. Some continue to grow. Others struggle to maintain attention. The challenge is not just talent. It is adaptation. For Karolina, this meant thinking beyond street performances. Her content began to expand. She explored new locations, new styles. Collaborations with other performers also became part of her journey. These steps showed an effort to grow beyond her original image. But the pressure did not disappear. If anything, it increased. Now there was a need to protect her identity, while also evolving it. Too much change could confuse her audience. Too little could lead to decline. This balance is difficult for any artist. Even more so for someone who began so young. There is also the personal side of growth. Teenage years bring emotional changes. Identity, independence, and personal choices begin to take shape. For someone in the public eye, these changes are often observed and judged. Privacy becomes limited. Moments that should be personal can quickly become public. Despite this, Karolina continued to move forward. Her dedication remained visible. Her connection with music stayed strong. She performed on larger stages, gained more recognition, built a global audience that continued to support her. But questions about the future remained. Will she transition into a professional music career? Will she explore different creative paths? Or will the pressure of early fame change her direction completely? These questions do not have clear answers. Many young stars face similar uncertainty. Some find long-term success. Others step away from the spotlight. What makes Karolina's story unique is how early it all began, and how quickly everything changed. From a young girl in Ukraine to a global internet figure, now standing at a new stage of life, one where decisions matter more than ever. The world continues to watch, but her future is still unwritten. And in that uncertainty lies the most important part of her story. Because the biggest chapter of her life has not been written yet, and its outcome may surprise everyone. Karolina Protsenko's journey shows the reality behind early success, where talent meets pressure and growth happens in public view. If you found this story insightful, consider subscribing for more real-life documentaries that reveal the truth behind rising stars.